Happy St. Patty's Day / week. Welcome back to Coffee Nick's Movie Picks, a bold blend of coffee and movie review podcasting. My name is Nick Patrick Delaney, and I'm your show host, coffee and movie reviewer, and the guy who loves a messy dinner party scene. In today's episode, we will be celebrating Ireland with a review of the Shamrock Double Espresso from Coffee Republic in Washington, D.C. Later, the truth comes out in a discussion of Black Bag, the latest film from Steven Soderbergh starring Cate Blanchett and Michael Fassbender. Please take a seat, stay a while, and let's talk movies over some coffee. Everyone, hello, happy St. Patty's Day / week. I'm recording this the day after St. Patty's Day. I planned on doing it the day of, but alas, the world had other plans for me. But here I am the day after. I can't say I'm wearing green right now, but I certainly was yesterday. I was wearing my Guinness sweatshirt. For those of you who do not know, my middle name is Patrick, and my last name is Delaney. So I am Irish. I am. And in 2018, in the summer, it was the last day of June, I took a very transformative spiritual trip to the motherland, to Ireland. I took a trip there. I fell in love. I left Ireland, but my heart stayed there. What a beautiful country. What friendly and fascinating people. What a long and storied history that country has. A history which it is still living to this day, as is the case with many, if not all, countries around the world living their history out. Wow, I would be really good in like a pageant. But yes, I love Ireland. I went to Dublin, and that was a lot of fun. We saw the Book of Kells, so we went to Trinity College. We saw Riverdance, which is now critically acclaimed, the critic being me, Beyoncé song. Other people like that song too, but I'm the biggest fan, I think. But yeah, wow. I love St. Patrick's Day. It is my middle namesake, after all. And let's look up that story. Let's look up St. Patrick's Day origins. I did grow up knowing this tale, but let's look into this because this can be interesting. So this is from Britannica.com. I don't know if you all think that's a reliable source or not, but this is where we are, so just crediting them. All right, this is the feast of St. Patrick, patron saint of Ireland. He was born in Roman Britain, which I did know that. He was actually not born in Ireland. He was kidnapped at the age of 16 and taken to Ireland as a slave. He escaped but returned at 432 CE to convert the Irish to Christianity. And then by the time of his death on March 17th, 461, he had established monasteries, churches, schools. Yeah, this sounds about right. Many legends grew up around him. For example, he drove the snakes out of Ireland and used the shamrock to explain the Holy Trinity. So yeah, classic tale of a holiday having religious, mainly Christian roots. I just love the part about him driving the snakes out of Ireland. I think that's a really cool thing. Where's his biopic? Where is his movie? Anyways, I hope you guys had a lovely St. Patrick's Day. I hope you wore green. I hope you drank a pint of Guinness, listened to some Niall Horan music, watched Lady Bird with Irish icon Saoirse Ronan, watched Normal People or Gladiator 2 with Irish icon Paul Mescal. Yeah, there's a lot to celebrate in terms of Ireland, so yippee. But some housekeeping things before we get into the meat of today's episode. I wanted to give some previews of what I have planned coming up on the show. I am going to be testing out a new release structure for the show. So I am always, as always, I'm going to be sticking to episode releases every other week. But moving forward, I'm going to try to have one of these episodes be a new release in theaters, and then the other episode is an older film. Older meaning like it's just didn't come out this year, basically. And so that'll be 2 episodes a month. And I am holding the space for maybe more episodes coming out in a month. Recently, I have been doing like 3 or 4 a month, actually. I think last week was the first time in a while I skipped anything. So I'm going to try to stick with that. I'm having a great time doing them, so why not? To give you guys a preview of what I have coming up, the next episode on the show is going to be a review of Jordan Peele's Nope, featuring friend of the pod, Reese, which that was already recorded. It is going to be a great, great episode, a very in-depth discussion on Nope and many other things, of course. Some other movies that I have planned coming up to review is a Minecraft movie, of course. Why would I not? And I also plan on talking about the new version of Snow White, which, I mean, I guess neither of those movies are like what I typically do on the show. But Snow White specifically because that movie originally had Greta Gerwig credited as the writer, as the person adapting the story into this new version. So I was always planning on reviewing that film because of that. But recently, she was removed as the writing credit. So I don't know if that was just like IMDb updating its system like way after the fact, and she's been off of the project for a very long time, or if she recently asked to have her name removed. I don't know. But I want to go see Snow White, and I want to talk about it on here to see what it's all about and to see if whether she's a part of it or not, to see if I can notice any like Greta Gerwig connections. So be ready for that, but lots of good stuff coming up. My final, I guess not final, but big announcement is that the show will be on Patreon starting later this year, likely in the early summer. On the Patreon page, I am planning on releasing episodes on the show's off weeks. Subscription to the Patreon will grant you access to these episodes for free. However, there will of course be paid options that will allow some benefits. More details will come later on that, but I just wanted to let you all know ahead of time. That is something that I am already starting to work on. I want to have these series ready to go ahead of time so that it doesn't affect my normal operating schedule on the show. My last note is that another episode I had planned was a bonus episode for The Room, celebrating my 100th follower on Instagram. However, I did not know this. The Room is like virtually inaccessible. And the only way it seems to watch The Room is by going to see it in theaters, which they often do have showings of The Room because it's like a moment. It's like a cult classic, I guess. But my schedule is not matching up with that. So it might be a few months before that bonus episode comes out, but I will not forget about it. So that'll be out eventually. Okay, those are all of my housekeeping things. I also have to note, in my Madam Web and Catwoman episode, I completely forgot to mention my entire through line, my entire argument with those movies. And I kept referencing this through line throughout the episode. I'd be like, oh, I'm going to get to that in a minute. Don't worry, don't worry. And then I just completely forgot to do it. But that through line is, how did these movies get made and not Batgirl? How did that happen? It's unbelievable to me. But alas, here we are. I'm so sorry if you can hear that bird outside my window. I have started to record with my window open because I get in some heated discussions. So I need to get some fresh air, cool down a bit. So just think of it as ambiance, some background noise. Okay, that's everything out of the way. Let's get into it. Now Brewing is a luxury coffee discussion and review segment. Now Brewing in today's episode is the Shamrock from Coffee Republic in Washington, D.C. All right, what is the Shamrock? What is that? The Shamrock is a creation by this coffee house. It is Irish cream and brown sugar flavored double espresso, topped with whipped cream and cocoa powder. All right. Now, I, as I always do, every Sunday, I go on a long walk around the city. This walk often is multiple hours long. Like it's very long. I live on the eastern side of DC, and this walk specifically, I walked all the way to the White House. Lots of crazy stuff going on in that house, but that's besides the point. So I was parched. I was parched. I needed what they call a pick me up. So I went and got picked up. I went to Coffee Republic, which is located right by the Metro Center metro stop. And I wasn't sure at first. I'd been here before. I'd been and I got a Mexican mocha, which is a mocha with like spicy chili powder. And I remember it being really good. So I was interested, kind of like, I didn't quite know what to expect the second time, especially with like a St. Patrick's Day themed drink. So I got this one, and uh, it was good. It was really good. I don't know what else to say. I It's served with a spoon, so you're supposed to kind of like, I guess, eat it like ice cream, where you just spoon it out. It was so good. Like the whipped cream, it was a very, very heavy cream, very thick. Um, and it was just coated in cocoa powder, like extra, extra, extra cocoa powder. And just like the hints of espresso on the whipped cream I started like shaking. Is that bad? I started shaking when I had this. It was really good. I mean, it was very much like this was a dessert. It was like a sweet, but it was delicious. It was the perfect pick me up. And then after the whipped cream, you of course have like your espresso sitting there. That was very sweet, very tasty. This was not for someone who like really only likes black coffee. This is definitely more of a sugary drink. But I think this is for the coffee lovers. This was just really good, really creative, and I loved the flavors in this. So props to Coffee Republic. I absolutely loved this drink. I give it the Nick pick. And the coffee house itself is also really nice. There's a lot of places to sit down and everything. The barista, he was very nice, and they had like cool Bob Dylan posters and stuff like that. So it was just nice. It is literally right next to the Metro Center metro station. So if you're ever passing by, be sure to stop there. It is really good. Okay. All right. I think it's time to get into the next segment, which is the coffee thought. This is an outlet dedicated to voice my many incoherent thoughts over a lovely cup of coffee. For one of the very few times in the show's history, I actually do have a cup of coffee with me. For this recording, I am drinking an iced Americano that I made using my Nespresso machine. I have a lot of like Peet's Coffee Nespresso pods. I used the red one. There's like a lot of different color ones. There's a brown, black, purple, and red. I used the red one, which I think is like their standard espresso. And it is so lovely. An iced Americano on a sunny afternoon. It's lovely. It's divine. So I'm having a great time with this coffee right now. What I would like to talk about today, though, I have a message. No, no, no. I have a question for the culture. Oh no, Lana Del Rey fans. We're not going in that direction, Lana Del Rey fans. I have a question. What exactly are you trying to tell me when you flash your high beams at me? What exactly are you trying to accomplish other than blinding me while I'm hurtling down the road at certain speeds? What exactly are you trying to do to me? There are many different ways to communicate with someone while you're on the road. I am a communication major, after all. Let's talk about some of those ways. One way being, if someone lets you into their lane, they make like a little gap for you, very nice. You go into that gap. You could wave your hand, in between the driver and the passenger seat and hope they see it through the back window. That's a way to communicate. You're saying, hey, thank you, that was really nice. Or like, hey, I see you. Another way could be you could maybe swerve out from behind someone and speed up to their driver window and kind of like align yourself with them. Look at them, turn yourself over your left shoulder, stare at them real angry, kind of like Luigi in Mario Kart 8. Look real angry and wait for them to look over and then flip them the middle finger. Ooh, ooh. That's if you're really mad. That's if you are really just pissed off. There's that damn bird again. What's another way? The most classic and maybe socially acceptable way to communicate while driving, the horn. The horn. And there are many different messages you could send with a horn. And those messages, they depend on the intensity of the horn, how long you press the horn, maybe the amount of times you press the horn. For example, a little toot toot, that could be like, thank you. Or like a little toot, that could be like, hey, look up from your phone, the light is green. Happy St. Patrick's Day. That could be, fuck you, I can't believe you did that, what the hell? In DC, things get a little feral and it's like, toot, 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 toot. That I don't even know. I haven't learned the local car language yet. Still picking up on a few things. I rarely ever use my horn. There are very few instances where I find it necessary. I don't think it's appropriate to use the form as punishment, like, I can't believe you did that, I'm going to make you hear my loud horn for the next few seconds. I don't exactly know what that's trying to communicate. Really, you're just kind of like freaking out everyone around you on the road, like, oh my gosh, is someone honking at me? Or if you're in the city, you are freaking out like pedestrians nearby. I can hear you up in my office or in my house during my podcast recordings. It's really not cute. However, like if you're encouraging someone to look up from their phone at a green light, yes, I think that's an appropriate use of the horn. I do that here and there. Or for example, if like someone is merging into your lane and you happen to be in their blind spot, yeah, that's a good time to use the horn. That's a good time to bring out the horn. And maybe even a long drawn out horn, because you need to let them know. You need to let the girls know you're there, taking up space in your lane. It's okay to take up space. What was I talking about? Yeah, so the horn has a lot of different messages you could send. What message are we sending when we flash high beams at someone? That is flashing your high beams at someone illegal? I really feel like it should be. Let's look that up. Someone said that flashing your high beams at someone is a matter of free speech. Girl, I don't think so. Okay, Yahoo says, legally, you cannot flash your high beams to signal to a motorist that their headlights are off. Okay. But like, what about other instances? Headlight flashing is the act, this is Wikipedia, is the act of either briefly switching on the headlights of a car or of momentarily, I know what it is. Is it legal? Uses. Attracts attention, so can be considered the visual equivalent of blowing the horn. Okay, oh wow. That's something I never considered. If someone is deaf and driving, this is a good way to signal to them that's not the horn. Wow. Wow. you just never know things like that. And that's why you have to educate yourself and read up on things like this. So that's good to know. So this could be, you could use it to let other drivers know of your presence, acknowledging the presence or actions of other drivers, signaling that the flashing driver is yielding the right of way. Okay, so there's a lot of different meanings here. Effectiveness and ambiguity. Flashed headlamps can have ambiguous or contradictory meanings. That's what I'm saying. With no way for the observing driver to tell for sure what the flashing driver is trying to say. It may mean, for example, that the flashing driver intends to yield the right of way, or instead they intend to take it. It can cause crashes. Yeah, it sure can. It sure can. Oh, wow. It's illegal in the state of Queensland, Australia. South Australia, headlight flashing by regular drivers for any reason is illegal. Huh. Sounds like I need to go to South Australia. In the United States, although the legality of headlight flashing varies from state to state, a federal court ruled that flashing headlights was a constitutionally protected form of speech, issuing an injunction prohibiting a police department from citing. Okay, so you can do it. I I don't know. I don't know. So, as someone with astigmatism, I'm very sensitive to lights when I'm driving at night. Um, like if someone is driving with their high beams on, that can really affect my vision, and like I will have trouble seeing in front of me. So I have to switch to like the other lane and try to avoid this driver driving around with their high beams on. Um, so I don't know. And like this article said, it is very ambiguous. I just don't know. Like with the horn, when you're honking your horn at someone, there's only very few times that I think that that is necessary. And it's to like get traffic moving or to avoid a crash. Um, so I just don't understand why high beams are really like why people jump on that. Like why is that a preferred mode of road communication? Um I am a believer that I don't know. I think we over communicate on the road. We over communicate like our frustration with other drivers. We over communicate our frustration with other drivers. I don't know. We are too mean on the road. We are too aggressive, I think is what this comes down to. And yeah, I don't see really a proper use for it. Of course, high beams, what it is intended for, I'm sure, is like driving in the fog and like inclement weather, or like driving, I don't know, through like a back road somewhere in the middle of night and like trying to escape some horror movie setup. So yeah, it has its like actual uses, and I do use them for those purposes. But I don't know if it's meant to be a form of communication with other drivers. However, I would be interested to hear from like drivers who are deaf, like what they think of people flashing high beams and like if that's useful or not. So comment down below, I guess. Wow. Did you learn something? I think I learned something. Huh. Look at that. All right, let's get into our Now Showing. Now Showing is our feature ideological analysis and critical film review segment by yours truly. Now Showing in today's episode, Black Bag. A renowned intelligence agent named George receives a mission to uncover another spy suspected of betraying the nation and threatening thousands of lives. 5 of his fellow spies are suspects, one of those spies being his wife, leading George to question the honesty within his marriage. Black Bag is directed by Steven Soderbergh and stars Michael Fassbender as George and Cate Blanchett as Catherine. It was released March 14th, 2025. Wow. Let's get into this. Sip of coffee first. I usually am not one that gravitates towards spy movies, or really action movies for that matter. There are a few spy movies I enjoy, such as Spy, starring Melissa McCarthy. I also enjoy a lot of the Mission Impossible movies, not the most recent one, but some of them, like Fallout was a really good one. I think I could enjoy James Bond if I gave it a chance. I really did like what was it called? Sky Skyfall. Yeah, that one was good. But when I think about it, I just think of Adele's song, and it just is like, wow, that was great. Um, so that equates to like the whole movie for me. Um, but this is not particularly a genre that interests me very much. So I was cautious, skeptical going into this movie. However, I was very excited to see it because for those of you that watched the episode on Carol, you will know that I think that Cate Blanchett is one of the best living actors. She is like one of the best actors roaming this planet. I think she's one of the most talented people on this planet. She is outstanding. I think every role she's in, she just like devours it, like she kills it. Um, she is unbelievably talented and good at her art. So I was going to see this regardless, just because she's in it. I was very surprised to find out, though, that this movie is not what it seems. I had a really, really good time watching this. First of all, it's like 90 minutes long, which, if you're anything like me, you hear spy thriller and you're like, okay, so that's going to be closer to 3 hours. This was only 90 minutes, which is really crazy. And I really appreciate that they noticed that they could tell this story in that amount of time. There was no need to really draw this out at all. One of the decisions that this film made that I think contributed to that really good pacing was that they really didn't explain anything. They didn't make attempts to explain to audiences Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett, their characters' relationship. You just sort of like dove into the story and you found out about the relationship and its different qualities along the way. Same thing with all of these other characters. There weren't really attempts made to explain them in depth. You kind of just got to see the way they act and perceive your impression of them that way, which I really liked that this film did that. They just let the characters characterize themselves. This story did not tell you anything, it just showed you. And that led to this being like a very airtight story. I feel like I saw everything that I needed to. I knew everything that I needed to. And yeah, I didn't know the ins and out of like this elaborate scheme to like destroy the world or whatever, but I knew enough about it. I knew what I need to know for this story to work. And I really like that this movie did not really exhaust its audiences by describing and outlining every single detail for things that really don't matter to what this story is. Like I said, this film really just got right into it from the get go. I really liked that about it. Right away, this is a visually stunning film. It was scored really well. It felt very nuanced. It felt very sexy and cool, sleek. Exactly like everything you would want from a spy thriller. It was there from the beginning. However, this film took a lot of creative risks in making itself unique and unconventional. So, this is a spy thriller where the lead spy is investigating this mission that has to do with a bunch of other spies that he works with. They're at the same whatever agency that he's at, which that's a really interesting setup. I won't say that hasn't been done before, but it's very unique. And what's unique is that these five spies, so one of them is his wife, and then the other four, they're both the two pairs in the four are in relationships with each other. I explained that really bad, but it's like two couples that are together. So really, this is like a movie about these three relationships, which is really interesting. Like, there's actually like a sort of not a romance, but like a look into relationships happening in this movie, underneath like this spy thriller exterior, which is really cool and makes this very entertaining and refreshing. So, rather than this movie kind of going down the usual spy thriller path, the main character, George, played by Michael Fassbender, he decides, he's like, okay, well, like, the best way to investigate these people is to have them all over for dinner. So, very close to the start of this movie, you get this outstanding dinner party scene where you have George trying to instigate, discussions or drama that will kind of lead him on into who the leak is, who the spy is that he needs to be investigating. All the while, it might be his wife. So he's very uncertain and he's on like uncharted territory right now. But of course, this dinner party just gets like extremely dramatic, and there are definitely like comedic moments in this that are very natural and work very well. And this dinner party scene, it does an excellent job in telling you like the personalities of these characters right away. These are all very strong personalities, and like, the subtle things about them tell you what you need to know. For example, the like counselor character, let me look up her name. Naomi Harris, who plays Dr. Zoe Vaughn, she wears like a cross necklace, which tells you, she has a history with religion, which is very important to her character. Tom Burke's character, Freddie Smalls, he is kind of like a very outspoken, very loud and irreverent character. And you definitely get that in the dinner party scene. So right away, there is a lot of characterization happening that just makes this film really entertaining. It was really cool to just I really enjoyed all of these characters, and I really liked this movie because of that. I just was really entertained by them. Yeah, so you have this dinner party sort of setting up the film, and it almost makes this film into a murder mystery. No one gets murdered at the dinner party, but the way that this film starts with a dinner party, and there's sort of this mystery. You get all these clues at the dinner party, and you're trying to piece these clues together to figure out who did it, what happened, motives, all the things like that. It makes this feel like a murder mystery. You know, I think if the film just made itself into like a traditional murder mystery, it would have not been as entertaining. But I think what made this really work was that one, it takes place over the course of a week, so you actually get to see these characters in different environments and sort of doing things. That's where you get like a lot of your spy moments. And then two, the question of this movie isn't really who is the leak, who did it. It's more of why didn't the wife do it? And I'm not saying she didn't. I'm not going to spoil anything in this. But of course, like the main point of contention is in this movie is between the characters of George and Catherine. They apparently have this really devoted marriage and they really care for each other. Why would Catherine be a suspect? What is she doing that makes her a leak? Why would she not tell her husband about it? Catherine is lying about this. What other things is she lying about? A lot more is at stake because the wife is a suspect. There is a quote that I really like in this movie. I'm kind of paraphrasing it because I can't remember the exact words that well, but the quote goes, "If you can lie about everything, then what is there to tell the truth about?" If Catherine is the leak, there is a lot more at stake than just like one of these other spies being the leak. So it makes this mystery a lot more captivating to have the wife involved. So really like what this film is about is not about finding the leak, but it's about finding out about this marriage. And like, the characters at the very top of the movie say like, we are very devoted to each other. There's a scene in the movie that you see in the trailer where Catherine is asking her husband, like, would you kill for me? Would you lie to me? Would you do this? Would you do that? To like see his devotion. So really like the film is about like, are these two telling the truth to each other? Like, is their marriage on the line? How devoted are they really? So this makes the film a lot more interesting than if the focus was just like about answering who the leak is. No matter what twist they would have come up with, like, oh my gosh, he did it, or the wife did it, or didn't do it, or did it, whatever the twist is, it would have just been like, okay, that's who did it. There was no way to really like make the film as interesting as it was without making it about like this marriage rather than like just the mystery itself. So that made the end of this film really satisfying, and I like the story and the message of this movie felt incredibly focused. The writer and director like really knew what they wanted to say with this movie and how to say it. It was just very airtight, and I really appreciate that. This movie right away makes me want like 10 more of these movies. I could really get into stuff like this, like a kind of like relationship focused spy thriller. I want more of this. I don't know if there is more story to tell here. I have a feeling like this is just a one-time thing and it's best left at that. But this is, like I said, just a very captivating film, and I really really enjoyed this and had a good time watching it. This is great to go see with like a partner, so definitely get someone together and go to the theaters with them to watch this. It was a great time. And I think I mentioned this earlier, but just really visually stunning. It has some like really cool sets and everything, and it's a really pretty movie. It has a really cool score that kind of adds to it. Pierce Brosnan is in it. His character is really great. I love that he's in it and he's very menacing in a way. Um, yeah, this was fun. This was just a fun time. I really enjoyed this movie, and I feel sorry that I ever like was skeptical about it. This I should have known that like Kate Blanchett is in this. Like she's going to deliver. She's going to be in a great, really great movie. So, go watch this one. Go watch this. I give Black Bag the Nick pick. Uplifted by captivating performances by Kate Blanchett and Michael Fassbender, Black Bag is an unconventional spy thriller that will leave you wanting more and more. The score, cinematography, and pacing of this film is striking. It is only bogged down at times by its decision to explain very little, which I would much rather have than everything explained upfront. In a way, the film operates as a murder mystery, starting with a brilliant dinner party scene. The mystery, though, is not quite a question of who did it, but a question of how strong the central marriage is. It's no secret that I will be wanting more and more of these films. Yeah, it was a little confusing. I forgot to mention this. It was a little confusing, like towards the third act of the movie. Of course, like the whole like destroy the world plot that George is trying to uncover and pin one of the suspects to. That's important to the story, obviously, but it gets a little confusing because it decides not to explain those things up front. But you have to kind of just roll with it and say like, okay, well that's not really important to what this story is. And yeah, I wish there was like maybe a little morsel at the beginning of the movie that explained like what the evil plot was, so that I didn't have questions like later on. But by the end of the movie, I'm like, okay, well, like that wasn't super important. That was just kind of like a device to get me from point A to point B. Also, maybe I missed something. I do have a story with this movie. Nothing crazy, but like the very beginning of the movie, I go to Alamo Drafthouse to see pretty much all movies, as you know. And when I go, I usually just get an ice water because I'm not paying for popcorn every time I go to the theaters because I'd be broke. But this guy, one of the servers came over and he was like, "Did you get this popcorn?" I was like, "Oh, no, no, I didn't. I didn't." This is at the very start of the movie when like George is receiving his mission. And he walked away. And then he came back. He's like, "Are you sure you didn't get this popcorn?" And I was like, "No, no, no, I didn't. I didn't." And he's like, "Really? Because it says you got it." And I was like, "No, no, I didn't get it. I just got water." And he was like, "Well, it has your chair. It has seat 12 written on it." And I was like, "I didn't get it." And I was kind of getting like a little annoyed at this part because the beginning of a movie is very important to me, as it is with other people. And he walked away. And then he came back and he was just like, "Are you sure you didn't order anything else? Did you put your card on file?" And I was like, "No, I didn't." It was so bad. And the guy next to me, he turned around. He's like, "Damn, at this point, just take the popcorn." And I was like, "I know, right? Like, if he wants me to take it that bad, I will just take the popcorn." Like, I love Alamo's popcorn. So, but, so maybe I missed something important in those first few seconds, I likely did, but that is really like the only negative thing I could say about this film is that like you just kind of get like lost with the specifics at some point. But if you're watching this film for the first time, just go into it and like don't be worried about it. It's okay. Don't worry about it. There is no Dear Coffee Nick this week. However, if you would like to send in a letter or questions or comments or your own reviews for me to read on the show, please DM them to me on social media or email them to coffeenicksmoviepics@gmail.com. I love reading these. I love doing Dear Coffee Nick, so please send them in. Send them in anytime. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Coffee Nick's Movie Picks. Before you go, please be sure to follow the show at Coffee Nick's Movie Picks on Instagram and at Coffee Nick on Blue Sky. There you can stay up to date on everything about the show. If you like what you heard, please rate the show on your podcast app of choice and share the show with your friends. Until next time, Ireland! Thanks again for listening to Coffee Nick's Movie Picks. Our opening theme is The Moondrops, and our closing theme is March of the Hares, both songs by Nathan Moore. Before you go, please be sure to follow the show on social media at Coffee Nick's Movie Picks on Instagram and at Coffee Nick on Blue Sky, and give the show the Nick Pick by rating it 5 stars on your podcast app of choice. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.